Hello, gang. Professor McElroy here. Welcome to the December section of VisCom, Visual Communication and Design. Took a quick look in the grade book at the cohort for this course, and each and every one of you in this section previously took Graphic Design 1, and you're either finishing up Graphic Design 2 from the November session, or you've had a previous section of Graphic Design 2. So you may or may not know that in essence, we're covering the core components of Adobe CC, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign across, in essence, a 12-week session. Each one is broken up into a 4-week course: Graphic Design 1, then Graphic Design 2, then Visual Communications. So across that 12-week session, we've covered the entirety of the Adobe Press ACE certification textbooks, which are the Adobe CC Classroom in a Book textbooks that we've been using for each one of these 3 class or coursework sessions. So VisCom is the third leg or the third piece of the Adobe CC Classroom in a Book coursework for Adobe Press. With that being said, once we complete the Photoshop sections, the Illustrator final sections of the books, and the InDesign final sections, we have covered all of the coursework that is required in the ACE certifications that Adobe offers. It is not a requirement for Hodges University students to take those, but it is an option for some students that just want to do it for out-of-pocket costs to take the exam so that they can add to their CV or their resume that they are ACE certified. We leverage the portfolio components of the Adobe Press books as kind of the leveraging pieces for completing those books in our portfolios, whether that be a physical portfolio or a digital online portfolio. Based on whether you're completing a certification or certificate, an associate degree, or a bachelor's degree. That's kind of the stages of evolution for visual communication designers. So based on the level of completion, kind of is what that portfolio might look like. But this is the final piece of the puzzle. I'm excited to have each of you in the VisCom section. I recognize the names from previous coursework, and I think everyone will just do really well in the course. I know that the hurricane for the October section gave us a little carryover of October, kind of then into that November. November is when we actually had the hurricane, and we've had some overlap of November now into December. Gosh, time goes so quickly. It's like October to November to December. So I know a few of you in this course are finishing up your Graphic Design 2 or your other November sections. The way the university did the sessions this year versus last year, instead of always starting on the first of the month, some of our sessions have started in the last week. Technically, if you're looking at a calendar like this, being the last week in November is actually our December session start. It might get a little bit confusing, but that allows for both the students and the faculty to have a nice 3-week Christmas exhale before we start the new year in the 2023. Gosh, it's hard to believe to even say that, the 2023 sessions at Hodges University. So it kind of gives everyone a little bit of a exhale. After coronavirus, after natural disasters, after everything, the economy, just with everything that's been going on, really, honestly, for the last couple of years, our world's been turned upside down a little bit. So it will be nice to take a little bit of that breather that we're going to get here over the end of 2022 into 2023, knowing that this session ends, I think it's like December 18th, whatever that technically that Sunday is that falls. So that'll give us the 2 weeks at the end of December, and really the 1 week at the beginning of January to kind of take an exhale. It'll also give us a chance for any of the students that might need to finish up some coursework in their sessions, give them a little bit of an extra breather or exhale as well, finishing up any work. And like any of the other 2 sessions that you've had with me, Graphic Design 1 or Graphic Design 2, you know that I'm not a huge stickler on giving just the 7 days for each learning module, as long as students are working along and progressing in the coursework. It won't be any different for the December session here starting tonight. I want student introductions completed. I want coursework for learning module 1 started, but I do know that the holiday is falling right here in the middle of the week. I actually have a Thursday Web Design 1 session that won't be meeting physically because of the holiday. And I really appreciate the importance of spending quality time with family and friends. And Thanksgiving is a really important time for that. And it's an opportunity to give thanks, for what we have. And there's always a lot to give thanks to. There's always going to be some kind of turmoil happening in the world. It could be family, it could be job, it could be just environment. There's always going to be challenging. Life's kind of a bit of a roller coaster ride if you're new to the ride, which I'm sure everyone has had that little bit of roller coaster in their life. And so this year hasn't been any different, but I really do appreciate, we actually have an open door policy at our house, my wife and I, that if there's anyone that doesn't have somewhere to go for either of the holidays, they're always welcome for Christmas dinner or for Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. Because no one should be alone during the holidays. So I hope each of you have, something to do, somewhere to be, some opportunity to enjoy time with family or friends or any of the sorts, significant others, whatever, because it really is an opportunity just to exhale a little bit, whether it's, having a nice meal and, watching football, or if it's playing board games or whatever it is that you do as family and friends during this time of year. I know if you live in Southwest Florida, it can get a little weird with the 85-degree temperatures or whatever they're calling for on Thanksgiving, which is a little bit ridiculous if you ask me. I grew up in Baltimore. It was just south of the Mason-Dixon line, mid-Atlantic. But having 85 degrees at Thanksgiving, even for me, who was a little bit south of the Mason-Dixon line, is a little bit crazy. But I guess we can be thankful for, some nice weather this time of year. I'm not going to lie, I already put up my Christmas tree because it's artificial, and I've already started to get kind of in that Christmas mood. I've got 2 teenage boys, so to me, this is the best time of year. I like it even if I didn't have kids or a wife or whatever. I just enjoy the holidays. So hopefully you get some time the end of this week to kind of enjoy some time with family and friends. You've already had graphic design 1 and graphic design 2 with me, so you already know the lay of the land. You already know that I like to use the announcement section as an opportunity for blast emails, in essence, share cool things, send you reminders, post recorded announcements and recorded lectures and stream live things and do that sort of thing. It won't be any different for this December session, just knowing that I know life gets pretty busy around the holidays in December. It might be family get-togethers or friends coming into town or just seeing people or just enjoying the holidays, holiday parties. I get it. Just make sure you don't drop off the face of the earth with me in this December session. Like, keep me informed as you're working through things so I know exactly where you are, what you're doing, what you're working on, that sort of thing. And I certainly will be understanding when things do get in the way, as long as you're progressing, you're meeting the learning module outcomes, you're meeting the course outcomes, and we're learning some new skills as we navigate. Because once we get through graphic design 1, graphic design 2, and VisCom, the door really does open for software specific Adobe CC application direct instruction, whether it's Adobe Animate, Dreamweaver, After Effects Premiere, any of the programs, Adobe XD, any of the programs we might be dabbling in, learning about typography and designing with type class, or publication design class where it's specific about InDesign, but it's all about InDesign in an advanced environment, or our advertising design class that's all about Photoshop in an advanced software environment. or digital illustration, which is all about Adobe Illustrator, in an advanced digital illustration environment. So these 3 core classes are really important towards the software knowledge evolution, the visual communication, digital design evolution, what you know, what you understand, what visually works, what visually doesn't. We're really laying the foundation here for you as you start to kind of push the envelope of digital design, graphic communication, visual communication, whatever term you want to use for what we do, which is use creativity through a software application, produce a branding style solution that can be applied across print, packaging, web, and interactivity. That is what we do. So VisCom is no different. We're going to be pushing through the advanced skill sets and our Adobe Pressbooks chapters and give you an opportunity with our Aldo book to really explore some of the things that you might gravitate towards as you use the software application. With that being said, let's jump into our module section. So you can see that I've only turned on Learning Module 1 out of all of your modules, and you should already know how to access your books via the digital bookshelf. You should know that email really is the best way to communicate with me because it pops on my iPad, on my iPhone, my MacBook Pro, my iMac, my MacBook Air. I have about every Apple product you can possibly imagine, and I use all of them, and my email gets pushed to all of them. So just know that as you're working on your coursework, if you have a question, have a concern, something you're working on, you can always shoot me a little message, kind of asking any kind of questions you might have, and know that some of this might be a skills or project overlap as we get into the introduction here, because we are trying to refresh a few skills in case Graphic Design 2 class was a little while ago, but also build upon those skills. And you may notice that we have a little quiz here. I've been feeding you quizzes sporadically through Graphic Design 1 and Graphic Design 2 class. This is no different. It's a time to reinforce terminology, process, kind of thought skill set as it pertains to graphic design. Remember, take your pace, take your time. It isn't timed. I just want to make sure that we're reinforcing professional terminology as it relates to our profession. Like, how do you communicate with a potential client, with a marketing manager, a creative director, another designer that might be working on a different piece of a project? Oftentimes you'll be part of a team and you may only be working on a small piece of a greater case study. So you got to know how to communicate effectively using the right terminology as it relates to Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, or just graphic design in general. So don't skip those. Take your time with them so we can make sure that we kind of use the appropriate skill set, terminology, that sort of thing. And you'll notice this, we're still in the 2021 book edition of Photoshop, and you'll probably get a refresher on some of the coursework, but practice makes perfect. We want to make sure that you're using the selection tools appropriately. You're masking objects correctly. You're using pixel-based software appropriately. There are other applications besides Adobe Photoshop out there that are really good. Affinity Designer, which is an app and now has a desktop version of its software, is a purchase once, use forever application that uses the Photoshop tools, the magic wands, selection tools, all the same things as Photoshop, quite honestly, in a slightly different package. So we got to practice those things, practice the pen tool, practice the selection tools, understand masking and blending and erasing and content aware filling and all those things that manipulate pixels in the best way possible in order to create the solutions that are cleanest, most real, and create a surreal, perfect pixel-based solution. And that's what we're trying to do. So when someone looks at it, they look at it and say, wow, that is a perfect image, or I want to buy that product or service. It is so utopian surreal in its solution, right? That's what we're trying to produce, images that blend together effectively in a perfect environment. But there's no such thing as perfection. But we want to make sure that when we're blending images, we're bringing them together and we're creating a composition that tells a story that is as perfect as we can possibly make it in our Photoshop world, right? And there's lots of ways to fake it with the camera and take your own picture and use composition, but you'll always need to bring in things to tell a story. And that's what we're trying to do in Photoshop. I take a lot of pictures with my iPhone. I take a lot of pictures with my iPad. I do a lot of image composing, both in a tablet phone world and in Photoshop. And that in the end, combined with typography, creates a story for me, a solution for me, whether it's an ad or a billboard or packaging design or a label or anything that I'm producing that's photo based. I'm trying to tell a story. And that story is often told with multiple image in a single solution. And we need to best communicate that. Yeah, we take these image compositions and we add type to them and we import them into sometimes a multi-panel or a multi-image environment, whether it be a menu or a magazine cover or packaging design or label composition or a billboard, whatever that thing is. But we want to make sure that we understand composition. We push the concept of feeding information that is image-based to a consumer in a way that sways their opinion towards buying a product or service, supporting a product or service. That is our job. It could be as simple as a postcard, or it be as complex as a packaging design that has multi-surfaces. So just keep that in mind as we're building our solutions. And as you're researching, you should be sharing in our topic share cool things you found, whether it be image-based or pixel-based or composition or just something visually cool that you see that you like or love. And we're getting really into this kind of image composition environment. I've got a 16-year-old, he's a big athlete. He's been kind of collecting sports cards lately, and you should see what the world has become with sports cards. They're cutouts of the baseball and the basketball and the football players on graffiti walls, and they're image compositions that are produced in a high definition physical environment that now collectors are getting what we call one of ones of. One card is all they produce, and it's really complicated. And it has foil overlays, has an autograph of the sports person, and it's not just a picture in a field or on a court anymore. It is a beautiful composition solution, and those one-of-ones are selling for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I mean, it is crazy. I just saw the other day a card that was one of one for, I don't even remember which athlete was, and it sold for $2 million, right? It's Photoshop work. It's a high definition, high resolution photograph, collage composed, put in a card template, printed out, perfectly die cut, and put in a package that someone opens, and it's a one of one. There is only one version of that card in the world, and it's selling for millions of dollars now. The whole idea of collectibles, album covers, things that posters, things that used to be like, you know, you enjoyed it for a while and threw it away, is really becoming now a work of art, right? It's amazing to me. And now you have graffiti artists that are commercial artists that are becoming fine art collector pieces like Banksy that are selling for multi-millions of dollars. And it's a graffiti artist in essence. So the world of visual communication has come a long way. The world of visual communication is continuing to evolve. And I'm trying to push your envelope understanding of pixel-based design in a world of Adobe Photoshop right now, but it doesn't mean that other applications won't be introduced to you across your career that you might explore pixel-based composition with. But we're pushing the envelope, right? We're pushing the envelope of what we do. And so there'll be some introductory stuff that you've seen before and some more advanced stuff that you haven't maybe touched yet, but we're just prepping you for practice of pixel manipulation so that you can make a career out of visual communication in some way, shape, or form, whether it be your own business, working for a corporation, working for an ad agency, whatever that thing may be. And remember, image-based, pixel-based design goes across print, packaging, web, and interactivity. So this environment should be very comfortable for you as far as it goes. And I hope our out of book project for this week is one that gives you an opportunity to have some fun. It's a 12 by 18, 300 DPI poster. It can be portrait or landscape. I want you to create two, and two that kind of is your utopian world, or the other end of it, which is desolate. I'm giving you a 2-poster project, save them as PDF, zip them in a file. Maybe you want to do one is utopian and one is desolate, just so that we can see your design style across the spectrum of solution, the perfect world versus the wasteland world. We should be able to see a similarity of style. So the kind of way you do things to create an image composition, there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. I didn't give it really as a branding project, one where you're selling a product or service. Yeah, you're targeting that 18 to 32, I would say fantasy or sci-fi type of consumer, but there's no product placement here. I mean, I guess you could put a product placement in your 2 solutions if you would like. Maybe utopian world, you're selling Pepsi, maybe wasteland or desolate world, you're selling Coke. And maybe that gives kind of that, this is the perfect world. This is, well, everyone likes either Coke or Pepsi, and they oftentimes don't like both. So it would be kind of an interesting dichotomy of design. If one is advertising Pepsi and the other one's advertising Coke, we should immediately be able to tell which one you like, because the utopian environment should be the product you like, and the wasteland desolate environment should be the product you don't like, right? So that would be kind of an interesting dichotomy design solution, but it's 2 solutions, 2 poster designs, 300 DPI, 12 by 18. And you should remember, you have to be working in a high resolution pixel environment. So if you are creating a 12 by 18, 300 DPI or 300 PPI environment, then you need to make sure that it's high resolution. Don't forget environments like pexels.com, right? If I type in utopian or utopia, I get these like unbelievable images. They're all tagged by the photographer as utopian. These are all super high resolution, will function perfectly in a 12 by 18 environment. If you choose to go over to Google image of utopia, you're going to get this stuff, right? This is most people's idea of utopia. And if you've ever seen what they're trying to do over in the Middle East in places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they're creating their own islands, dumping sand in the water. They're creating like these living buildings, these really funky, like if I type in Qatar, I mean, their skyscrapers, their buildings, what they're trying to create is really what I would consider pushing the envelope of utopian world or utopian life. You're getting all of these funky buildings they're building. I was trying to look for this, like it looks like a boat sail. They've got their own little islands. They're trying to dump sand and build their own buildings and structures on and in. You can see them right here. So the world is trying to create what you would see in some of these movie scripts that some of these films or filmmakers are trying to make, where it's all about this kind of utopian perfect world. I think Jim Carrey in one of the movies lived in a bubble, right, where everything was perfect. The street was perfect. All the houses were perfect. It was a shout out or an attempt at the utopian world, versus more wasteland, which you see some movies tackling as well. Even Star Wars. I mean, some of the planets that they're filming now in the Disney Plus, these wastelands where everything is sand and they live in these little bubbles with these automatic doors. I mean, that's more of the isolation kind of solution. But this learning module 1 is an opportunity to play in an advanced level in Photoshop, give you some things you've probably explored over Graphic Design 1 and Graphic Design 2, as far as selection tools and masking and pen tools and creating objects and shapes and blending images together. It just gives you a refresher and also gives you practice to extend your wings a little bit more in the Photoshop world. So I hope everyone, this is a half an hour intro to the course. Everyone has kind of treating this as asymmetric, kind of do it at a later kind of asynchronous environment versus synchronous or in class. It's the holiday. Everyone's probably prepping on the road, getting ready, some form of that. And so asynchronous is perfectly fine this week. So make sure you watch this 30-minute introduction. I hope everyone has an excellent Thanksgiving. I can't wait to kind of see you play in Photoshop and what you come up with this week for Learning Module 1. I know some are kind of finishing up. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is kind of the due date for the final projects in your November session. So make sure you're finishing those up, doing what you got to do there, and then you can start this. We've got a 3-week break in December, the end of December into the first week of January for our Christmas or winter break. So we do have a little carryover time, but don't let the coursework carry over too much. Be working on your student introduction post, your design topic share posts in the discussion board, and start on your Photoshop projects. Like I said, there's a little bit from graphic design 2 to VisCom overlap because not everyone in this cohort took graphic design 2 last month and they're going right into VisCom. Some had a little bit of a break. So there is a little bit of a refresher in the project overlap for VisCom from graphic design 2. But let's see how we can hit the ground running in Photoshop and create those projects as we practice with image-based design, image-based blending, image-based solutions. Remember, the solution is as important as the final project. So you want to be pushing the practice, the envelope of your creative kind of evolution into problem solving, be pushing that envelope. Remember, in Photoshop, you should be building background to foreground. You should be thinking of sky and landscape before you're thinking of people and product. So we should be evolving in our skill set here in Learning Module 1. Everyone have a very good Thanksgiving. Stay safe, stay healthy. Let's, enjoy ourselves, get a little bit of an exhale, but not too much of an exhale. I will with family and friends as well. We actually hosted at my house. So I'll probably have 14, 15, 16 people or so at my house for this Thanksgiving. I also like to watch a little bit of the football, so I'll be enjoying that time. But honestly, I'll also be working on a little bit of coursework, grading some assignments, and kind of posting to push you along and inspire you in this visual communication class. So everyone have a good week, have a good holiday, stay well, enjoy family, friends, time. It's a time to be thankful. I certainly am. And I'll see you guys next week.